Likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekama lecha dodi. Likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekama. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom u'mevorach, u'mevorach. Zecha dodi. Likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekama. Chadodi, lecha dodi. Likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekama. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom u'mevorach. Let's rise as we light our candles and enter into Shabbat together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu Lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Shabbat shalom. You may be seated. Page 15. Lechu neranena l'Adonai nariah letzur yishenu nikadma fanav v'toda bizmirot nariah lo. Arbaim shana akut bedor va'omaram to'e levavim vehem lo yadu derachai asher tzvati be'apim yevon el menuchati. It's 16. Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai Kol Haaretz. Shiru Ladonai Baruch Hu Shemo Basru Miyom Leyom Yeshuato Sapru Bagoyim Kevodo Bechol Ha'amim Nifleotav Ki Gadol Adonai Umhulal Me'od Norahu Al Kol Elohim Nay 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 Page 16, 4 lines up. Yismechu Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim. B'tageh haaretz. Yismechu Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim B'tageh haaretz. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam umelo. Yismechu Hashamayim. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tageh haaretz.
Yalo sadai v'chol asher bo, az yiranenu kol atzei ya'al, lifnei Adonai kiva, kiva litbor haaretz, yitbor tevel b'tzedek ve'amim be'emunah.
Page 17, and I'm allowed to earth, Yom Rabbi, Man Rafel, to Agam, Mishpan Machon Kiso, Ashtafan Atavi.
Urzaru ala tzadik, kol yishrei lev simcha, simechu tzadikim b'Adonai, v'hodu l'zecher kodsho.
Page 18, Mizra Shirana Shechadash Kivaasa, Shinoin Azra Kodasho, Hodirana Yeshua
Lifnei Adonai kiva lishbor haaretz, yishpot tevel b'tzedek, ve'amim b'meisharim.
Down at the bottom, page 19. Romenu Adonai Eloheinu Meishachavu Behar Kodsho. Romenu Adonai Eloheinu Meishachavu Behar Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Meishachavu Behar Kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Meishachavu Behar Kodsho. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu. We rise, page 20. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nelim, Havul Adonai, Kavod va'oz. Havul Adonai, Kevod Shemo, Yishtachavu Adonai v'Hadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim el hakavodim. Adonai al hamayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach. Kol Shaber Adonai et Arzei Halbanon Vayarkidem Kmo Egel Lebanon Besirion Kemo Ben Re'im Kol Adonai Chotzev Lavotesh Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh Kol Adonai Cholel Hayalot Vayechesov Ye'arot Uvechalot Kulo Omer Kavod Adonai Lama Vuyashai Shev Adonai Melech Leolam Adonai Oz Le'olam Lo Yiten Adonai Yevarech Et Amo B'Shalom Yai Lai 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 Yai Lai 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 Turn to page 21 for Lachado D. Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela lechadodi. Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmiyanu el hamichad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shemo tiferet ve'itila lechadodi Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'lecha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh Matfila lechadodi Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela lechadodi Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela Mikdash Melech Mikdash Melech im melucha kumitzei mitoch ha'afecha Rav lach shevet be'emek habacha ve'hu yachamot alaychem lechadodi Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela lechadodi Likrat kala penei Shabbat nikabela Hitna Ari Afar Kumi Likshi Bigdei Tifartecha Al Yad Ben Ishai Beit HaLachmi chala lecha dodi likrat kala b'leil Shabbat nikabela lecha dodi likrat kala b'leil Shabbat nikabela Hitoreri, kiva orech, kumi ori. Ui, shir daberi, kevod Adonai, alayich lecha, lecha dodi, likrat kala b'nei Shabbat, nikabela lecha dodi, likrat kala b'nei Shabbat, nikabela. Friends, we turn to page 22. Let's rise down to the bottom of the page as we welcome the Shabbat bride as she enters the room.
Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, gam b'simcha u'b'tzohala. Toch emunei am segula, boi chala lecha dodi, likrat kala b'nei Shabbat, nikabela lecha dodi, likrat kala b'nei Shabbat, nikabela. Shalom malachei hashalom, malachei elyon, malachei hashalom. Lecha dodi, likrat kala b'nei Shabbat, nikabela lecha dodi, likrat kala b'nei Shabbat, nikabela. Friends, you may be seated. Friends, when there are mourners present, there's a sentence we say on the bottom of page 22, a message of comfort, a message of camaraderie and empathy and compassion and condolence. Bottom of page 22, let's recite it in the Hebrew and then the English. Hamakom yenachem etchem b'toch she'ar avelei Tzion b'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you together with all other mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. So
Amen.
sorry for your loss. Continue on page 23. Mizmor shir liyom
Mizmor shir liyom
HaShabbat.
ha'Shabbat.
Nagir b'chistachel v'zalei asor v'lavein ha'velachim b'inor t'mutani v'lachim v'arim. Agad le'el ma'asechaya.
Odianovum beseva deshenim v'ranenim yol le'agi ki asher Adonai tzuri v'lo v'latao.
We turn to page 24. Let's read responsively in the English. On page 24, on the top left side of the page, I'll begin. Adonai is sovereign, crowned with splendor. Adonai reigns, robed in strength. You set the earth on a sure foundation. You created a world that stands firm. Your kingdom stands from earliest time. You are eternal.
The rivers may rise and rage, the waters may pound and pulsate,
The floods may swirl and storm, yet above the crash of the sea and its mighty breakers and the chaos is Adonai our God, supreme.
Your decrees,
Adonai, never fail. Holiness befits your house for eternity.
Idotecha nemenu ma'ol levedecha na'ava Kadosh Adonai leorech yamim.
Friends, we recite the Mourner's Kaddish on page 24 in the middle of the page. Mourners and those observing a yard site, please rise for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich machute b'chayechon u'byomechon u'b'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru
Amen.
Amen. Friends, we remain standing. We're going to recite the Baruch Hu and the Ma'ariv. Adin, come on up. We turn to page 28. Nava had a very powerful experience in Israel her second semester junior year on a Camp Ramah program called Try. And Adin was one of those people that was with her on that amazing experience studying and learning and touring Israel together.
Yeah.
He's going to lead us in the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai hamevorach.
Baruch Adonai Amorach Le'olam
Baruch
Ba'ed.
Adonai hamevorach leolam ba'ed.
May be seated. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. May be seated.
תודה לאור מפניך שבחושך מפני אור ומאביר.
Umavir yom umevi laila mavdil ben yom v'laila Adonai tzvot shemo el chai v'kayam tamidim lo chalenu leolam ba'ed. Baruch at Adonai hamariv aravim.
Amen. On page 29, Ahavat Olam.
Ahavat
Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochvenu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu uvahem negeh yomam v'layla yomam v'layla.
Ve'avatcha tarsir mimenu leolamim. Baruch at Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Amen. Page 30.
Yisrael.
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Ve'ahavta
Et Adonai Elohecha bechol levacha ubechol nafshecha bechol me'odecha vehayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'alechtecha b'derech u'b'shoftecha u'b'kumecha
Ukshartam
leot al yadecha v'hayil totafot b'einenecha u'chtavtam b'mezuzot beitecha u'b'sharech. Continue on page 30 and page 31.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
We continue on page 32.
Umalchuto beratzon kiblu aleihem. Moshe v'nei Yisrael lechanu shira v'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam.
Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, norat tehilot osefet.
Malchutecha ra'u banecha bokeyam lifnei Moshe ze'eli anu v'yamru.
Adonai yimloch le'olam ba'ed.
Ne'emar kifad Adonai et Yaakov u'galo mayad chazak mimenu baruch at Adonai ga'al Yisrael.
Amen. As we turn to page 33, Hashkiveinu Elohim Shalom B'nei Elokinu L'chaim U'forses Kashlemecha V'takneinu B'etzat Tova V'fanecha
וביציע כנפך תעשיין לפי השם הנאמת שלך ונאמת השמות שלך.
Ushmortetenu vo'enu l'chaim u'l'shalom me'ata v'yad olam ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha baruch at Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. Friends, we rise, page 34.
Shameru
B'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat L'dorotam berit olam Beini u'bein b'nei Yisrael Oti le'olam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz u'hayom ha'shevi Shabbat v'yinafash.
Yitkada ve'yitkada shemei rabba.
Amen.
Amati v'achute ve'amlich malchute
Chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayedecho beit Yisrael ba'agala ba'agala u'bizman karim. Amen. Yesh me'rabam mevorach le'olam le'ol maya yitbarach.
Yitbarach ve'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitramam v'yinaseh ve'yitadar ve'yitalesh me'dekudusha brichu le'ela min kol berachata v'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma. Amen. Friends, we have the opportunity for some silent prayer. It begins on page 35, page 35b with the matriarchs. It's a beautiful meditation in the English, page 39 and 40. A few moments of silent prayer. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ya'ko Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ya'ko Yisrael.
Ve'imru.
Amen.
Shkach.
Shekaya.
Shabbat Shalom. I am back in the USA, back to the land of the free, the home of the brave, back to a nation whose Liberty Bell declares, proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. Indeed, these words which are found on the Liberty Bell are a direct quote from this week's Torah portion, Leviticus 25:10, where it says, Ukratem deror ba'aretz lechol yoshveha. The specific context of these words within the biblical text is the command to free all of the Israelite slaves in the Yovel, the Jubilee year. Those who had suffered unfortunate consequences and circumstances leading to poverty and who were then reduced to slavery would be freed in the Yovel, and all debt would be forgiven. In Israel, there was to be no permanent class of slavery or freedom, or poverty. Now, indeed, slavery has dotted the timeline of our history. And we Jews continually remind ourselves of our founding narrative. Avadim hayinu, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. Such memory has served to sensitize us to the sufferings of others. Memorializing our own servitude is but one example of the importance of memory in Jewish tradition. We are commanded, remember the creation, remember the Exodus, remember what Amalek did to you. On our holiest days, the high holidays, we recite Zichronot, a series of 10 biblical verses encapsulating the biblical experience. We recite the martyrology, recalling the tragedies that we experienced at the hands of tyrants. And we recite Yizkor, remembering our own personal losses and embracing the pain of that loss while reflecting on the beauty of the lives of our lost loved ones. Yizkor, remember. We are our memories. Without memory, we have no identity, we have no connections, and we have no reality. When you speak of memory or history, you need to recognize two distinct biases. First, the perspective of the author, the speaker, the source of the information. And secondly, and possibly more importantly, is the selection of what you focus on. If you've ever studied in a class with me about history, you've heard me say there were 8 billion yesterdays. 8 billion people, each with their own report of what happened yesterday, and that's just yesterday. Some level of focus, some level of prioritization is always required. While one can speak of the events of the early 1940s without mentioning World War II, without mentioning the Holocaust, to do so would be absurd and decontextualizing. The same would ring true if we were to describe the year 2020 and omit any mention of the COVID epidemic. And so I ask, how is it that today there exists even a discussion of whether we should teach our children about the centrality of African American slavery when we reflect on American history? To not do so is not a political issue. It's a denial of who we are. It's a denial of who we were. It's denying us an opportunity to sensitize ourselves to the suffering of those around us. True American patriotism requires a recognition of the greatness of our country and a recognition of where we have erred, where we have failed, where we have missed the mark. While Judaism and Christianity share many values, there are nonetheless distinctions in our approaches. In Christianity, heroes are presented as perfect or near perfect. Begins with Jesus, continues with the saints throughout the centuries. Not so much in Judaism. Genesis, as I've said often, is a cookbook on how to destroy your family. It has jealousies, favoritisms, murder, theft, multiple wives, bearing children as a competition, on and on. The great King David committed adultery and arranged for a murder. And these are the behaviors of our heroes. Our biblical heroes are flawed. They are human, and they are therefore true role models. They're role models with which we can identify. They are us. America the Great, America the Beautiful, remains the greatest social experiment in history, a land with a vision of the value to be found within every single citizen. But we and our nation are not perfect. Despite being the land of the free, we have and we continue to show poor judgment at times, to make poor choices, and even to limit the freedom of those among us. Slavery remains the greatest example of unethical and regrettable behavior in American history. Unethical behavior by individuals, as well as the collective national behavior. Slavery almost destroyed American unity. And yet, throughout our society today, there are proposals to seriously downplay these events in the teaching of history within our schools. Texas has become a battleground, a state in which lawmakers are attempting to remove from its founding and subsequent histories much of the slavery story and the contextualization of those events. There are proposals to block exhibits at the Alamo from explaining that many of the heroes actually were slave owners. And there's an attempt to eliminate discussion of one of the significant causes of the war for Texas's freedom, the maintaining of slavery 7 years after Mexico had banned the abhorrent practice. And as Texas goes, so goes the nation, as a result of the huge textbook industry within our state. Now, interpreting how best to respond to these events lies with the hands of lawmakers, absolutely. That's a political issue. It should be debated. However, to claim that we want to teach critical thinking and then to turn around and limit exposure to the core causes of a core element of our history as a state and as a nation flies in the face of the seminal Jewish value of memory and should not be politicized. Much like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, and David, our American founders and subsequent leaders were flawed, even in their greatness. They were not saints, they were us. Through both their remarkable achievements and their ethical shortcomings, they serve as role models from which we can learn and from whom we can further our compassion. For Jews, memory is a sacred concept. Without memory, as I said, we have no identity. Without memory, we cannot make sense of our lives individually or collectively. Without memory, we can have no true, meaningful relationships. As Jews, the Torah obligates us to remember, since the active effort involved requires a nurturing and a strengthening of our Jewish and national identity. As Americans, we want to draw our children into the collective drama of our history. We want to envelop our children into the full range of what it means to be an American. And we want our children to confront all the positives and the negatives of our past, to absorb the subsequent values and beliefs so that they can function as responsible citizens, as responsible members of our great nation. Ukratem daror ba'aretz l'chol yoshveha. Proclaim liberty throughout the land unto all the inhabitants thereof. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Yasher Koach. Friends, we turn to page 47. Let's rise for Vayachulu as we remember the purpose, the reason, the cause for our celebration today, the seventh day of creation in which God rests. Page 47.
ויחולו
השמיים
והארץ
וכל צבאם, ויכל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanara El Elyon Koneh Shamayim va'aretz Magen Avot
מחיים מתים במאמרו, האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, כי בם רצה להניח להם, כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד בין הברכות. אל ההודעות, אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניח בקדושה לעמד ושני עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבות, page 48. צא במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך, ותן חלקנו בתורתך. סבנו מטובך, ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעבדך באמת, והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון, שבת קודשך וינוחו וישראל מקדשי שמך.
Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Tkatav v'tkadash merabah.
Amen.
Yamad yivrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh v'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayetecho be'Yisrael b'agalav v'zman kariv v'imeru.
Amen. Yehi shmeira b'mevorach le'olam le'omei maya yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yitzurma v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala shemei dekudusha.
Richu.
Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirta tush berchata v'nechmata damiram b'yama v'imeru.
Amen.
Titkabel soton v'oton decho Yisrael kadam avahon divishmaya v'imeru.
Amen.
Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru.
Amen.
Yoseh shalom yiramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru.
Kiddush for Shabbat is on page 49.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ava u'bratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila l'mikrayei
l'chaim, l'chaim. We continue with Aleinu on page 51.
Aleinu
Shabeach ladon hakol, latei kedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kiguye haratzot, velo samanu kimishpachot
Adama,
Shelo samchelkenu kahem, begor aleinu kecho hamonam, anachnu korim, umishtachavim, umodim, bifnei melech, malchei hamlachim, akadosh baruch hu, Unotev shamayim be'osed haaretz, Umoshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'al, Ushchinatu zo begovei meromim, U'Eloheinu keinod, Emet malkeinu efesu lato, Kakatu betorato, Yadata yom v'hashevota el elecha. Ki Adonai hu Elohim, b'shamayim imam, v'yaharetz mitachat einod.
Kakatu b'toratecha Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed.
Ne'emar haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad u'shemo echad. Friends, you may be seated. Our condolences go out to the families of Flo Slateco, Rabbi Harold Kushner, and Gerald Scott Turk. We commemorate the following Yortzites: William Burke, Marie Kaplan, Jacob Eisenbaum, Pearl Flam, Jeffrey Kay, Joshua Akiba Keaton, Jenna Michelle Kleiman, Joshua Kasoy, Ben Lesser, Seymour Levine, Joseph Leventon, Heinz Lowy, Doris Lukin, Eartha Mayer, Morris Naftalin, Hyman Novi, Sylvia Schaffman-Oreskes, Harriet Pekelner, Ann Stewart, Isidore Tobolsky, Jenny Wind, and Avram Yankovich. Friends, Mourner's Kaddish for mourners and those observing a Yortzeit, page 52 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kari v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah v'orach le'olam l'omei omayat. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Ose shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace above bring peace and comfort to us below. Together we say amen.
Amen.
Amen. You may be seated.
Once again, Shabbat Shalom. Couple of announcements. Tomorrow morning, 9:15, we have our Mishpacha family minyan with Rabbi Teller. Please join us. Bring the youngins with you through second grade, but if the third graders showed up, we'll still welcome them. Right, exactly. Bring the youngins and with your families and come join us 9:15. Services here in the sanctuary begin at 9:30. During the week, we have at 9 o'clock each morning, Sunday to Friday, our morning minyan on Zoom. We welcome you to join us for that. The attendance has been wonderful, and it's just a warm and friendly and wonderful experience. Next Friday night is Ruach. We have Friday Night Ruach in person here at Brit Shalom and on YouTube. The doors open at 6. Come, join us for services, join us for dinner, join us for a little bit of spirit. Ruach. And other than that, please note it's not on here, but please start putting on your calendars the first night of Shavuot. This year we'll be having it at Beth Yeshurun. It's become a community-wide event. And so we will have rabbis, cantors, and educators all speaking and teaching that evening from across the spectrum of the movements. And when you have all those rabbis and cantors and educators in a room speaking in front of one another, you know you're going to get their best. So join us that evening for an evening of learning. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We conclude with Yigdal on page 53.
Yigdal Elohim Chai ve'yishtabach nimtza v'yenei tel mitzvito echad v'en yachid ke'ichudo ne'lam v'gam etzof le'achduto en lo tamut haguf ve'eino guf lo na'aroch ela kedushato
Kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra rishon v'en reshit l'reshito.
Hino Adon Olam v'chol notzar yoreh gedulato u'malchuto
Shefa nevuato nitano el anshe segulato v'tifarto.
Lo kan b'Yisrael k'Moshe od Naviu ma'abid et emunato
Torah temet natan le'amoel ayad neviyon eman beito.
Lo yachal Yifa'el ve'lo yamir dato le'olamim lezulato
Sofer yodea setarenu mabit l'sof davar v'kadmato.
Gomer le'ish chesed k'mifalo noten l'rasha ra kerishato
Yishlach leketz yamin meshichenu liftot mechake ketz Yeshuato.
Metim Michael Berochasto Baruch Adei Hashem Tehilato
Metim Yechael Berochasto Baruch Adei
Hashem Tehilato. Friends, we all rise for a priestly benediction. Ken Levine's going to recite the words of our priestly benediction, and we're all going to channel God's energy into each other.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
Ken Yiratzon.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichoneka.
Ken Yiratzon.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasim lecha shalom.
Ken Yiratzon. Yesher koach. Yesher koach.